of Victor, oozing lust. She wrapped her legs around his waist. He squeezed her voluptuous ass and stared into her blood-red eyes. She looked like she was going crazy. "Drink me, darling." She had an unhinged smile on her face, heart racing, cheeks flushed. Victor began to match her passion. He loosened the shackles that kept him under control. His teeth started to grow as a hungry smile appeared on his face. Violet bared her fangs, delighted. She sniffed his body, sucking in ragged breaths of passion. She leaned close to his neck, bathing it with her tongue. She opened her mouth and bit down, hard. Victor let out a breathless moan of pleasure. He was overwhelmed with a surge of pain and pleasure. "I'll never get used to how good this feels." He took over, pushed Violet up against the wall. He heard the sound of the wall cracking, but he didn't care. Victor opened his mouth wide. "My turn." He sunk his teeth into her neck. She released her teeth from his neck and groaned in ecstasy. Victor felt her blood drenching his shirt, and he loved it. Violet lapped up his sweat as he sucked her neck. Just as Victor was about to rip his clothes off, he caught a whiff of a horrible stench. "What the hell is that?" Violet smelled it too. Her bloodlust and excitement evaporated with an irritated snarl. Victor stopped sucking her blood and activated his vampire vision. He saw two male silhouettes at a considerable distance from the house. They were both human, but just like June the Witch, they had an aura covering them, as if protecting them. But unlike June, whose aura was blue, their auras were golden. That's the source of the smell. These guys stink to high heaven. He informed Violet of their presence, and she flew into a rage. "Those fuckers! They just had to come and interrupt my moment with my husband! Pieces of shit!" Violet's face contorted through various expressions of disgust and anger, as she rattled off words that would make the most vulgar sailors blush. Victor brought his face closer to Violet's neck and started licking off the smears of blood. Upon feeling his flicking tongue, she stopped her diatribe and moaned. He spoke to her in a low, sensual tone. "Calm down, my love. Let's think clearly. I sincerely doubt these people are here looking for us." She moaned again, this time a little louder, biting her lip and wrapping her legs tight around his waist. Their passion rekindled as they devoured each other's skin. And suddenly, Violet pushed him away with a growl. Victor stumbled back. "My love, what is it?" She lowered her head, her breath ragged. "I can't focus with these unwanted guests so close by." Victor nodded with understanding. "Who do you think they are?" Violet sighed. "Agents of the Inquisition, of course." Victor was stunned. Oh, shit. He again activated his vampire vision and peered through the walls with his glowing red eyes. He saw the two men walking around urgently as if searching for something. One of them was also holding an item in his hands. "They're holding some kind of strange device," Violet snarled. "They're on patrol. They have a device capable of tracking vampires. The thing is useless when hunting noble vampires, but for hunting common vampires without support, it gets the job done." Victor raised an eyebrow. "Why is the device useless for nobles?" "Noble vampires are the only vampires who can pay witches to deploy countermeasures for that technology. Of course, there are exceptions. There are ordinary vampires who have been transformed and become rather wealthy." She continued sarcastically. "After all, this is America, the land of capitalism. There are several plebeian vampires with a lot of money here. These agents who are patrolling must be recruits, since an experienced agent would never be so obvious." Victor's interest was piqued. "Just out of curiosity, how much does a countermeasure cost?" Depending on the witch you use, it could be upwards of $5 billion. Victor opened his eyes in shock. "Isn't that a little high?" Violet answered. "That's what happens when a product is monopolized. Witches are the only ones who have this technology, so they can put whatever price they want on it. That's why noble vampires always invest in maintaining friendly relations with witches." Violet walked into one of the bedrooms. "I'm going to change clothes." She slipped her sweatshirt over her head and straightened her mussed hair. She unzipped her jean shorts and was left with only black panties and a black bra. Victor followed her into the bedroom, immediately turned on. As he headed toward the room, Kaguya appeared from the shadow and stood in his way. He remained calm. What are you doing, Kaguya?
Lord Victor, please don't be a degenerate now. You have all the eternity to feast on each other. You have all the time in the world to practice the act of reproduction, but now is not the time for that.
Victor felt his eyes twitch at Kaguya's words. She's annoying, but she might be right. Kaguya pointed to the room beside Violet.
Please, follow me, Lord Victor.
Victor sighed and followed Kaguya into the other room. On the bed was a change of clothes. Kaguya gestured with an emotionless face.
Lord Victor, do you want help changing?
Victor clocked her eager expression. I'll be honest, I'm a little curious how she would go about changing my clothes, so why not? Sure, if you don't mind. Kaguya's eyes transformed to a crimson red as she lit up with excitement. She suddenly morphed into a shadow energy and passed through his body. The clothes that were with excitement. She suddenly morphed into a shadow energy and passed through his body. The clothes that were on the bed vanished, and Kaguya stood in front of Victor again, now holding the clothes he had been wearing. They're even neatly folded. Everything happened so fast I could barely process it. He looked down at his chest and realized he was already dressed. That was impressive. How did you do that? She held her hand to her chest as a gesture of pride.
I'm the strongest, most perfect maid. That's the least of what I can do.
Victor grinned. What a character. He followed an impulse and began stroking her hair. She lifted her expressionless face and looked at him.
Lord Victor, please keep your hands off the maids. Surely you're not the type to cheat on your wife.
Victor laughed. Is it not the maid's duty to serve her master?
So you are abusing your authority.
She remained stoic and humble.
I understand, as it's the master's order. I can't do anything. After all, the master's orders are absolute, and I am a perfect maid, and the eldest of my sisters. I must be the one to sacrifice myself so that you don't lay a finger on the other girls.
He stopped stroking her hair and shook his head. Lighten up, Kaguya. But also, good job. I was just teasing you, but you responded in an honorable way. Kaguya nodded and gave him a strange, frustrated look. Victor left the room and walked toward the stairs that led to the main level. I'll wait for Violet upstairs. After all, I just heard my parents' voices. I think they've come home. After Victor departed, Violet, who was now wearing a different outfit, appeared.
Kaguya!
Kaguya was startled.
Yes, Lady Violet.
Violet's eyes changed to blood red. She spoke possessively.
He's mine. He's only mine. I know, Lady Violet. I was just surprised. It won't happen again.
Violet's eyes returned to their normal color.
Good.
She smiled contentedly, turned, and started walking toward the stairs.
Lady Violet!
Violet stopped and turned back. Kaguya swallowed.
May I ask, what do you intend to do about Lady Sasha and Lady Ruby?
Violet's body shook violently. She clenched her fists tightly, and the air around her started to heat up. Her face distorted in cruel anger. Her eyes glowed with a dangerous glint, and all her sharp teeth showed. She didn't look like a noblewoman anymore. She looked like a monster hellbent on destroying the world. Realizing that Violet was losing control, Kaguya took a small green ball from her pocket and crushed it.
June.
June, who was wearing a green bikini, appeared in a magic circle. She immediately clocked what was going on, and without being told what to do, snapped her fingers and soundproofed the entire basement with an insulation barrier. When June was done, she nodded, no longer able to suppress her rage. Violet punched the wall with all her might.
Those bitches!
The wall fractured in the pattern of a spider's web. June spoke with a hint of genuine surprise.
She has an absurd strength as always, but it looks like she's gotten even stronger.
Violet spiraled into deeper torment.
It's just mine. Just mine. I will not allow any woman near him. I will kill those whores.
A bloody pressure began to spread throughout the basement. Kaguya realized that Violet was raging uncontrollably and not returning to normal.
Lady Violet, those two, as you say, bitches are your childhood friends.
Hearing Kaguya's words, the atmosphere around Violet weakened, but the sense of danger still lingered. Violet clenched her fist tightly and bit her lip in frustration. She struggled and squirmed in her momentary mental battle, but soon she calmed. She spoke in a tone devoid of emotions.
I know. That's why I don't want Victor to meet them. I don't want to have to kill my childhood friends.
Soon she brought her powers completely under control, and the atmosphere returned to normal. It was as if nothing happened. June made a gesture with her hands, and soon the barrier she put in place disappeared. June dusted off her hands and addressed the two vampires. As always, the same amount of money in the same bank account, and I'll charge a little more for the teleportation tools. Those things aren't cheap, and please don't call me on such short notice. I was sunbathing in Maui. She tossed 3 more green balls to Kaguya, who put them in her pocket. June nodded in thanks. The witch's services were cheap compared to the other witches she knew, so spending a little money to prevent Violet from screwing everything up was worth the cost. And besides, it wasn't her money. Violet retreated to her room as Natalia, the blonde maid, appeared from one of the basement's secret passages. She had been sipping tea in a hidden room, but decided to come out when she heard Violet's tantrum. She pulled Kaguya aside.
What do you intend to do?
Kaguya sighed.
As the perfect maid, I cannot let Lady Violet make a mistake that she will regret in the future. After all, the maid must always want the best for her master. Lady Violet is not taking the whole situation well, and her obsession with Victor is clouding her judgment. The ritual is absolute. All 3 women must join Lord Victor, because if they don't, Lord Victor may fall into a deep sleep.
Natalia gulped. Kaguya continued.
If this were to happen, Lady Violet would go mad.
Natalia nodded.
This whole situation is complicated, especially considering this has never happened before.
Kaguya agreed.
I have to get in touch with Lady Ruby and Lady Sasha. It's the only way.
Natalia was concerned.
It's not safe right now. Those Inquisition assholes are still out there.
Kaguya was undeterred.
I have no choice. We are running out of time.
Kaguya was on a journey to find Sasha and Ruby. She stopped on the roof of a skyscraper to collect her thoughts, gazing out in the distance at the bustling university campus she was headed to. She was miles away, but she could see everything with crystal clarity. As she watched, she thought about everything that had transpired over the past 2 days. She couldn't lie to herself. She was a little surprised that Violet had picked Victor as her husband. Kaguya paced, thinking out loud.
At first, I thought he would run away when he witnessed my master's psychotic behavior. I know Miss Violet's personality well, but he seems to really love her.
Kaguya sighed and thought about her life. She was 210 years old, young by vampire standards. Since the moment she gained consciousness, she had been trained to be the personal servant of Clan Snow. Kaguya was part of Clan Bank. The 2 families had an unbreakable blood bond, because they used to be one. That is, until one of Clan Blank's ancestral leaders went rogue and abandoned the clan, leaving them without a functioning hierarchy or political support. This meant that Clan Blank was demoted to a subsidiary family that existed only to serve Clan Snow. Because of a single vampire's decision, an entire bloodline was doomed to a life of servitude. Kaguya did not inherit Clan Snow's flame abilities, but she did inherit their immunity to the sun, which made her an asset. She didn't like feeling shackled by the responsibility that had been placed on her since birth. She liked being a servant, but she didn't like being someone's property. She exhaled in a shrug of resignation.
The perfect maid can freely choose the master she wants to serve. Unfortunately, I'm far from being the perfect maid.
It wasn't that Kaguya didn't like Violet, she just had complicated feelings about her master. Her face glazed over.
But as Lady Violet's personal maid, I can't let her make a mistake she'll regret forever. I may not be perfect, but at least I'm hardworking.
She chuckled a little to herself and jumped, headed in the direction of the university. While all of this was going on, Victor was at home with his parents. You guys really bought all this? I thought you were kidding. He couldn't believe what he saw before him. 3 boxes of fireworks, each the size of a microwave. Victor's mother, Anna, always asked a question without giving him time to answer.
Why do you have that face, Sourpuss? Oh, that's right. Because you always look like that. Anyway, we have to celebrate. You have no idea how much I wanted a daughter-in-law, so I can have some real girl time.
She's so annoying. She's treating my wife like she's her daughter. Suddenly, she ran toward the kitchen looking for Violet, like a kindergartner excited about a play date. When she found her, Violet was staring into the kitchen with disgust. Anna ignored Violet's expression and hugged her. Violet is taller, so seeing my mom hug her is a bit comical. She looks more like Violet's younger sister. Violet was stunned by the affection, but soon she returned a soft smile.
Lady Anna, what are you doing?
Anna shook her head.
Wrong, wrong, wrong. You are my son's wife, so you must call me Mom.
Violet looked shocked, struggling to get the word out.
Mother?
She sounded like she had never uttered that word before in her life. Anna broke away from Violet and nodded, satisfied.
That didn't sound quite right, but I realize you're uncomfortable, so I won't force you into anything.
Violet panicked, embarrassed.
It's not that. It's just...
She fell silent. Anna beamed proudly.
Shh, don't worry. Everyone in the world has secrets. Even my son and his wife.
Violet smiled with relief.
But why were you looking at the kitchen like it was a torture chamber?
Victor shook his head. As always, brutally honest, Mom. Violet's expression took on several shades of red. She ducked her head in embarrassment and pouted.
I was never good in the kitchen, and I wanted to make Victor something to eat.
Anna and Victor looked at Victor in shock. Anna started squeezing Violet even tighter.
Aw, you are so cute. My son hit the jackpot.
Violet's face was completely red, and she looked to Victor for help, but he just shrugged. Leave me out of this. Anna stopped hugging Violet and squealed with excitement.
That's it. It's official. I've decided I'm going to teach you how to cook.
Violet's eyes brightened.
Really?
Anna pulled Violet by the arm and led her into the kitchen.
Of course. Let's go.
Soon the two women were chatting. Victor retreated to the living room. There he found his dad, Leon, leaned against the wall with his arms crossed.
You found a good wife there.
Victor returned his father's smile. You're wrong, Dad. Leon looked at him confused.
I'm sorry?
I didn't find her. She found me.
Women these days are more honest with their feelings, huh?
He crouched down and tried to lift the boxes full of fireworks. Leave it to me, Dad. Victor walked over and stacked all the boxes on his shoulder. Leon couldn't help but smile with pride at Victor's display of strength.
You used to be a total wimp. Now you look like you could work construction.
If only he knew. Victor carried the boxes across the living room. By the way, you two were out of the house for a while. What took you so long? It's way past dinner time. Leon followed him.
We wanted to give you guys privacy.
Anna chimed in from the kitchen.
That's right. Some time and space to get a little hot and heavy.
Victor blushed.
Mom!
Anna continued nonchalantly.
Don't be silly. I know all about this stuff. It's all very normal. You two are young. Your libidos are running wild, hormones and whatnot.
Violet grinned wryly.
Indeed, we enjoyed last night.
Victor turned a darker shade of red. She means that we sucked each other's blood, but my parents are definitely not ready to hear that. Anna looked at Violet with shining eyes.
I think I'm going to like you even more than I already do. I found a partner.
Violet cocked her head.
A partner? Yes. Do you know how difficult it is to be the only honest person in this house? My son is so antisocial that if it weren't for my positive influence, he'd be a fanboy for some cam girl.
Victor set the firework boxes down.
Really, Mom?
Victor shook his head, frustrated. I wouldn't be a fanboy because I've never had any money, and I'm not naive enough to believe that if I paid those cam girls, I could get in their pants. Besides, I never had time to think about any of that because I was always worried about my health. In the past, I always looked like I had one foot in the grave. I doubt any woman would have been interested in me. Victor turned back in to hear his mom roasting his dad.
My husband. Well, what more is there to say? He's my lazy husband.
In general, Leon was a good father. He was an excellent provider, and he was always there when the family needed him. Leon fumed.
Hey, woman, don't trash talk me in front of my daughter-in-law.
Anna stuck her tongue out at him. Suddenly, Victor smelled the sewer stink again. Those Inquisition agents must have returned. Damn it! Violet noticed it too, turning to face him with a tense smile.
Honey, should we go get my things from the house?
He nodded. Good idea, darling. Anna frowned.
Aw, but we were having so much fun.
Violet gave her an apologetic look.
I live near here, and I just need to get some more clothes.
Anna nodded.
I see. Well, take care and come back soon.
Violet walked toward the door, taking Victor's arm.
Of course. We'll be right back, Mother.
Victor smiled. That word is already getting easier for her. They were about to open the front door when they heard Anna call out from behind them. Her voice was shaking. Victor whipped back. "Mom, what is it?" Violet and Victor. Violet and Victor were almost at the door when they heard Anna's trembling voice behind them. "Wait!" Victor spun back, concerned. "Mom, what is it?" Anna flashed a big warm smile as a tear trickled down her cheek. "I'm just so glad you two are here." Victor let out a sigh of relief. "Really? That's all she wanted to say?" He shook off his nerves and smiled back. "We're glad to be here, Mom." Violet bowed, moved by Anna's affection. Violet and Victor continued out the door. When they were out of sight of his parents, they leaped into the air, disappearing into the sky as two wild bats. Ruby Scarlet, Victor's mysterious other wife, with her shimmering long red hair and a body that would be the envy of any model, lay sprawled out in a king-sized bed. She slept soundly and comfortably. Suddenly, a woman's voice sounded in the bedroom. "Lady Ruby." Ruby turned over and kept sleeping. She was fully convinced that no one would dare interrupt her sleep or attack her family. Because of that peace of mind, she always slept like a baby. The woman called again. "Lady Ruby!" This time, Ruby heard the woman's voice, but she was too lazy to get up. And then Ruby heard the distinct Russian accent of her personal maid, Luna. "Kaguya, you're doing it wrong." "Oh, how do you wake up your master, Luna?" Luna flashed a sadistic smile and rushed over. "Lady Ruby, I ripped up your entire anime collection." Ruby's eyes shot open. She glared daggers at Luna. "I'm not buying that ploy anymore, Luna." Luna snorted. "It worked, didn't it?" Luna wore a maid's uniform similar to Kaguya's. She had shoulder-length white hair, pale skin like all vampires, and pink eyes. Kaguya leered with disdain and jealousy at a specific part of Ruby's body. Her breasts. She muttered under her breath. "Huge as always." Ruby grumbled and sat up in her bed. I wanted to sleep." When Kaguya saw Ruby's breasts dangling in her red nightgown, she couldn't help but think, maybe I should just let Lady Violet kill this woman. Ruby looked at her guest. "Oh, Kaguya, how long has it been since we've seen each other?" Seeing Ruby's gentle smile, Kaguya softened. Ruby was kind-hearted. She also had nothing against her personally. Ruby cleared her throat. "Well, what is it, Kaguya?" Kaguya took a deep breath. "I came here to talk about Lady Violet." Ruby had anticipated this. "You came at a good time. I have something to tell you, too." Kaguya looked at Ruby with curiosity. "Oh?" Ruby explained to Kaguya all about Victor and Luan's heated basketball game, sharing Cornelia Funar's ominous vow to punish Victor. Kaguya shook her head. "A young noble vampire who thinks he's the center of the world and has an ego more fragile than glass. What else is new?" Ruby nodded in agreement. I know, but he's serious about coming for Victor. Luna interrupted with a vulgar joke.
So are you, Lady Ruby?
Ruby wasn't amused. Silence. Luna froze.
Apologies.
Luna had always enjoyed teasing Ruby. Ruby was a humble person and didn't like to use her master status to force Luna to do things. But Luna knew this and pushed those boundaries whenever possible. Tarnishing their master's reputation was inappropriate behavior for any servant. Ruby shook her head. I don't like to do that, but she doesn't know how to control her mouth. Kaguya nodded in understanding.
About Corneliu, Lady Ruby, no need to worry.
Why needn't I worry? Kaguya stood confidently.
Because Lord Victor can handle it.
Ruby countered. But he's a newborn, and a newborn can't fight a noble vampire who's been roaming the world for over 50 years. Even though Corneliu is weak by noble vampire standards, he's still a noble vampire. A newborn vampire can't handle him. Kaguya pushed back.
Lady Ruby, have you forgotten that we are?
Ruby gave a knowing smirk. You're absolutely right. Kaguya conjured a cold smile.
We are vampires. We are not like wolves that take care of each other. If Victor dies fighting Corneliu, that means he wasn't as special as Lady Violet always said he was.
Indeed, but I don't intend to become a widow after meeting my husband. Kaguya nodded.
I understand.
Ruby took a breath. Now, what have you come here to talk about? Kaguya approached Ruby's bedside.
I came here to say that Lady Violet's obsession has been getting out of hand since the moment she met Victor, and she will probably try to kill you without batting an eye.
Ruby closed her eyes in resignation. I know. I've known her since she was little. I know how crazy she can be when someone takes something that belongs to her. I guess Sasha and I shouldn't have been there when Victor was turned. After all, he was someone Violet had her eyes on since he was a child. Ruby put her hand on her neck, and her eyes flared into a harsh red. A bloody atmosphere emanated from Ruby's body, and slowly, the room got colder. It's as if they were stranded on a frozen tundra. Ruby made a fist. But I don't intend to give up either. What happened in the ritual can't be undone, and I can't go into hibernation because of one little mistake. I have big plans. If Victor does become my darling, or when he becomes my darling, he'll have my full support for whatever he wants to do with his future. Ruby's smile broadened until her sharp teeth showed. The primal animal inside of her was coming out. Kaguya noticed this change. On the outside, she held an expressionless face, but inside she worried. Does Lord Victor's blood have properties that turn female vampires into stalkers? Kaguya remained diplomatic, having fulfilled their goal. I understand. I'm leaving. Ruby responded to Kaguya's politeness by softening her own demeanor. Are you going to visit Sasha? Yes. Be careful with Sasha's new maid. She's special. Kaguya turned to Ruby. What happened to her former maid? Ruby's crestfallen expression answered everything. Julia died? Ruby steamed with anger and sorrow. Yes, she was murdered by the Inquisition. Kaguya lowered her head, tears welling in her eyes. The loss of a fellow maid was always a low blow. The damned Inquisition. I'm sorry to hear that. I knew her well. She was a mentor to me. Thank you for your help, Ruby. Ruby nodded appreciatively as a sudden flood of shadows engulfed Kaguya as she vanished in the blink of an eye. Ruby looked at Luna sympathetically. Sorry about silencing you, Luna. Luna shrugged. It's okay. I know I go too far sometimes. Ruby scoffed. Sometimes? Luna remained silent. Ruby looked at her watch. 8 a.m. Still way too early. I don't have class until 1. I think I'll just go back to sleep. Ruby lay on her bed. As soon as she pulled the sheet over her body, a crippling thirst came over her. When she felt this craving for blood, a craving that couldn't be satiated by ordinary blood, she had the urge to curse Violet. That bitch! She's got her thirst quenched, but she doesn't think about the consequences. Does she want my darling to go into a coma? Ruby's eyes alternated red and green as she tried to fight the bloodlust. Luna showed cautious concern.
Lady Ruby?
It's okay, Luna. Soon this problem will be solved. Ruby drew the sheet over her head and closed her eyes. She tried desperately to sleep while resisting her desire with all of her strength. Luna looked at Ruby worriedly. She couldn't help but think.
This is bad. If it goes on like this, Lady Ruby could lose control or go into a coma. I need to do something fast.
She thought intensely for a moment when a brilliant idea struck.
That's it. I'm going to get in touch with Ruby's mom.
Across town, Victor and Violet stood on top of a roof, looking for the Inquisition agents they had been smelling all day. Victor spotted two tall men walking down the street. At first glance, they appeared to be dressed in priest uniforms, but unlike holy garb, these black robes had been modified for combat. Around each man's neck hung a small white crucifix. One had short-cropped black hair and brown eyes. The other, a light brown bowl cut and black eyes. Victor used his enhanced senses to listen to their conversation. The brown-haired man impatiently huffed. Thomas, what are we doing? We've been down this street 500 times. For the love of our father, let's get out of here. Thomas, the black-haired man, didn't flinch. Shut up, dickhead. I feel those evil creatures around here. I smell the stink. The brown-haired man clenched his jaw. Don't call me dickhead. I have a name that God gave me. My name is... Yeah, whatever. Come on, dickhead. The equipment is sensing something over there. Thomas pointed to a connecting alley. No way. We've been down there before, too. Thomas checked his instrument, shaped like a wooden crucifix. Strange. This is state-of-the-art equipment. Maybe it's defective. The brown-haired man studied the device and blew his top. This is not state-of-the-art, for the love of God. Where did you get this? Van Helsing himself would call this an antique. Thomas scratched his head. I got it from the church warehouse. They said it was for tracking vampires. Did you happen to check out any of its specs? Maybe what generation it is? Thomas blushed with guilt. No, I guess not. Veins popped in the brown-haired man's face. You're a goddamn idiot, you know that? Victor stopped listening to the conversation and turned back to Violet on the roof. And you're saying that these two hunters from the Inquisition are famous? Violet sighed.
Yes.
Victor looked at the two priests again, and then back at Violet, who ignored him. Are you sure? They seem like morons. Violet's voice quivered with uncertainty.
Two things can be true.
Victor and Violet looked at the priest again, baffled by their ineptitude. Victor let out a disappointed sigh. Violet clocked it and tried to cheer him up.
No need to be disappointed, darling. There are more experienced hunters out there. Maybe in the future you'll meet them.
He stared at Violet, perplexed. That's not what I'm upset about. I'm just pissed that these two agents interrupted our move-in day. Plus, they smell like shit. The reminder of their spoiled moment enraged Violet. She emitted a suffocated killing intent that filled the air. Seeing Violet's violent expression, Victor couldn't help but think how beautiful she was. And then Violet shapeshifted into a bat and dove through the sky toward the hunters. Victor was stunned. Oh, fuck. Violet, wait! Thomas and his partner stopped dead in their tracks. The two vampire hunters had sensed Violet's killing intent, but didn't know where it was coming from. Thomas's partner took a Bible from a satchel he carried and placed his hand on the cover. Oh, my Lord, please forgive these corrupt souls, and bless your lost lambs in this battle to come. A golden light descended on the two men. Thomas ripped the crucifix off his neck. I am the man chosen by God to be his messenger. Suddenly, the crucifix morphed into a sharp sword. The sword looked ordinary, but the blade was unusual. It was outlined in golden light. Violet in bat form dove out of the sky and materialized right beside Thomas. She swung her leg to kick him in the head, and a golden barrier blocked her attack. Damn it! Violet pulled away and looked at her bruised foot. Her vampiric regeneration cured her almost instantly. She looked at Thomas with a murderous glare. Thomas saw Violet's red eyes and pale complexion and alerted his partner.
Jimmy, vampire!
Jimmy opened his eyes wide. Now you call me by my real name? Thomas growled.
Prepare to fight.
Jimmy nodded. I can't believe we actually found a vampire. In the morning. And then he shuddered with a troubling thought. Thomas, there's only one coven of vampires who are immune to sunlight. Let's get out of here. Thomas raised his golden sword.
Why? We have a vampire to kill.
Jimmy fired back. Think about it, dipshit. She is a vampire, but she is walking around in broad daylight. Tommy's eyes widened. Oh, shit. Violet tore through the air toward Thomas. She grabbed him by the hair, intending to rip his head clean off. He panicked and dug out a canister of holy water from his bag, splashing it on the ground. He feverishly flipped to a certain page in the Bible.
Michael, guardian, prince, and warrior, defend me and protect me with your sword. Don't let any harm come to me.
Suddenly, a giant golden sword fell from the sky and landed in front of Jimmy. It was made of pure golden energy. At the sight of the blade, Violet backed away. Oh, you're talented, aren't you? She displayed a predatory smile, flashing her razor-sharp teeth. Jimmy seethed.
I don't want compliments from a demon like you.
Suddenly, Victor in bat form came careening into the showdown, transforming back to his normal self. Seeing Victor's red eyes, Jimmy's face went pale.
Another vampire who can walk in the sunlight? They are from that clan of cursed nobles. We don't have a chance here. We need to run.
Thomas refused to quit. His body glowed with the power of his golden blade. Jimmy was terrified.
Thomas, don't do it, you fool. We shouldn't be fighting this battle.
Victor watched as Thomas charged toward him in a blinding flash of light.
Give me your head!
Victor stayed calm. He could feel that the power of the sword was dangerous to his vampire skin. He slickly evaded the attack, but felt a sharp scratch against his face. What the hell is this pain? It's like I've been burned from the inside. It's like thousands of ants are biting my face at the same time. Jimmy chided his partner.
Thomas, you fool! If you're going to attack, don't miss!
Thomas snarled. Victor realized that even though Thomas's weapon hadn't connected, the outer edge of the golden aura had injured him. Suddenly, a bloody pressure exploded into the air. They all whipped back to see Violet surging with flames, her expression twisted into pure rage.
You fuckers!
A pillar of fire burst forth from her body like an erupting volcano. She cradled her head like she was possessed, mumbling loud enough for everyone to hear.
How dare you? How dare you hurt my beloved darling?
Thomas quivered with fear.
That fire.
Jimmy kept his eyes on the vampires.
I warned you, Thomas. We should have backed off. You never listened to me.
Jimmy trembled, searching for an escape.
We just provoked a monster.
He watched the cut on Victor's face heal in a few seconds. He turned to his partner with murderous eyes. If we survive this, you and I are done, man. I can't be stuck with you anymore. You're too damn stupid. Victor ignored the hunters and approached the enraged Violet. He caressed her face, unharmed by the fire around her. He leaned in and they exchanged a passionate kiss in the middle of the raging flames. Victor pulled back and flashed a gentle smile. Are you calmer, my love? She smiled. Yes. Victor laughed and noticed the two hunters scampering away. They caught his watchful eye and burst into a sprint.
Oh shit, run!
Victor nodded at his wife. We need to know what they know. You grab the one with the brown hair, and I'll get the one with the black hair, okay? Violet nodded dutifully. Yes, darling. Victor exploded forward at lightning speed and caught up to Thomas. Before the hunter could react, Victor kicked him hard in the side of the head. Thomas dropped to the ground like a sack of potatoes. Victor lifted him like a child, then took off into the sky. Violet appeared alongside Jimmy, who was stammering out a prayer. God, please protect this land that is being kidnapped to the Devil's Lair. Violet ignored his babbling and snatched him up, launching into the sky behind Victor. A mob of concerned locals approached the scene of the firefight, puzzled to find it empty. Everyone was gone. Victor and Violet arrived at an abandoned building a few miles away. Victor threw Thomas's unconscious body to the ground. He stirred from the impact. Ouch! What the? And then remembered where he was, fear returning to his face. Violet tossed Jimmy to the floor. He landed in a heap, groaning in pain. Violet stared at the man with murderous intent.
How are you feeling, boys?
Victor shot her a look. Calm, Violet. We need information from them. Violet growled.
But I'm angry. I want to kill him. He hurt my darling.
Victor shook his head. It was barely a scratch. My wife is loyal to a fault. He spoke to Violet with authority. My love, I appreciate you being so protective of me, but don't let your emotions overpower you. Victor studied the men on the floor. I may not have much battle experience, but there's one thing I'm sure of. A level head is essential when you're facing hunters who are bred to exterminate you. Violet took a shaky, deep breath, heeding Victor's warning.
You're right. I'll try not to lose control.
Victor nodded in appreciation. I don't blame her. Since becoming a vampire, my emotions seem to be out of control too. Jimmy sheepishly cleared his throat. Can we leave? Violet whipped her head toward him. Victor placed a pacifying hand on her shoulder and wagged his finger in Jimmy's face. Not yet. Victor began circling the wounded hunters. Don't worry. As long as you tell us everything you know, we'll let you leave here alive. After all, your mission here doesn't involve us, does it? Jimmy's face lit up. No, we came here to hunt a vampire named Lucy. He's wreaking havoc in the human world. Thomas tensed. Jimmy, what the hell are you doing? Victor and Violet exchanged glances. Victor crouched down in front of Jimmy, staring into his soul. Don't listen to your friend Jimmy. If you want to live, you'll tell us everything. Victor and Violet had just broken Jimmy, the vampire hunter. He admitted that Victor and Violet weren't his targets. Instead, he and his partner Thomas were there to hunt the vampire Lucy. Victor grinned. Go on, tell us everything. Jimmy spilled the beans like he was confessing his sins to a priest. It's me, this idiot here, and 3 veteran vampire hunters. An American named Carlos Rice, a Japanese woman named Mizuki, I don't know her last name. At the mention of Mizuki's name, Violet tensed. Mizuki is one of the new generals of the Inquisition. She could easily fight a vampire that's over 500 years old. The last report I heard about her was from Japan, where she single-handedly eliminated 5 clans of noble vampires. Victor was shocked. How many generals are there? Violet reveled in teaching him. 4. Each general is an exceptional force. They are the strongest humans alive. She paused. I don't know how they do it, but it looks like the Inquisition is getting stronger as time goes on. Jimmy rose to his knees and clasped his hands together. The generals are God's chosen warriors. They have eternal youth and many God-given abilities. Violet silenced him. Quiet! Jimmy cowered. Victor shook his head. Chosen by God, huh? Does the God he talks about so much even exist? If so, why doesn't he eliminate vampires himself? After all, isn't he supposed to be an all-powerful being, right? I think someone is using the notion of God to align people under a single purpose. Wouldn't it be the first time God's name was exploited like that? Victor crouched down to Jimmy, ignoring his babbling. And the last hunter, what's his name? Jimmy stopped praying. It's not a him. It's a her. Maria. She's also an American. She's Carlos's partner, but she's gone missing. Victor considered the information. Maria, Carlos, and Mizuki. 3 strong hunters and these 2 bozos. They're putting a lot of effort into hunting a not-so-strong vampire like Lucy. Why? The situation has changed. This has become a dangerous game. And quite interesting. I can't help but smile a little when I think about it. Victor stroked his chin. Why am I having fun in this situation? I'm a newborn vampire. If I were to confront these expert hunters, I would die like a pig being slaughtered. I need to control myself. Violet stared at Victor as he was deep in thought.
We can't let them go anymore.
Victor nodded. No, we can't. Jimmy shook with despair. But why? I told you everything we know. Please don't kill me. Kill him, but not me. What a coward, but a smart coward, prioritizing his life over his companions. Jimmy's the poster boy of a soldier you wouldn't want in your organization. By comparison, Thomas is a loyal man and hot-headed. He's the perfect pawn. Victor pointed at Thomas. Just out of curiosity, did you choose Thomas as your partner? Jimmy scoffed. No fucking way. God chose us to be each other's companions. Oh, now I get it. The Inquisition brought these two together on purpose. They hoped that Thomas's loyalty would rub off on Jimmy. Guess not. Victor copped an innocent smile. Well, I apologize, Jimmy. We can't let you go after all. The situation has changed. But don't worry, we won't treat you badly. Let me test something on this guy. I've always wanted to try this, and now I have the perfect lab rat. Victor kneeled beside Jimmy. Look into my eyes. Jimmy reluctantly complied. Victor's eyes turned blood red. You will do whatever I order. Violet cautioned him.
That isn't going to work, darling. They have something that prevents them from being enchanted.
Victor whipped his head back to Violet. They do? Violet nodded.
We never found out what it is, but the Inquisition has methods that prevent vampires from enchanting their members.
Jimmy's eyes suddenly turned blood red as he spoke in a hypnotized tone. Yes, I will. I'll do whatever you order. Violet gasped with excitement. Darling, how did you do that? Before Victor could answer, Thomas leaped to his feet. I'm going to kill you bastards! What did you do to Jimmy? Victor was unperturbed. This man sure has a lot of hatred in him. It can't be a coincidence. He must have a history with vampires. It's personal for him. No doubt he was victimized by a vampire at some point in his past. Thomas began speaking an incantation. Oh God, please! Before he could get further, Victor grabbed him by the neck and lifted him high into the air. Victor cast his red eyes at Thomas. Just shut up and obey me. Thomas trembled in fear. Yes! Victor dropped him to the ground. Victor grinned at the sight of the two hunters under his control. I'm still curious about some things, especially about the spells they used in our last fight. I'll make them tell me everything I want to know. Victor turned to Violet. Let's get them to your mansion. I don't want potential enemies in my parents' house. Violet smiled deviously.
I was thinking the same thing, darling.
Across town, Kaguya arrived at a presidential suite on the 25th floor of a luxury hotel. She was there to see Sasha, Victor's other wife who he knew nothing about. Kaguya lowered her head in reverence.
I heard what happened, Lady Sasha.
Sasha was a voluptuous blonde woman with short hair, pale skin, and eyes that constantly shifted from red to blue. She has big breasts, but the features that garnered her the most male attention were her ass and thick thighs. If Ruby had the biggest breast Kaguya had ever seen, Sasha had the biggest butt. Sasha replied through cold, tired eyes.
And did you come here to give me your pity?
Kaguya shook her head.
No. Can you tell me what happened?
Sasha snarled.
This is not your concern.
Kaguya's eyes changed to blood red.
Wrong. I've known Julia longer than you. She was like a teacher to all the maids who served the houses of the 4 vampire earls. Just as she was a mother to you, she was a mentor to me. This is my loss as well as yours.
Sasha backed down.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Kaguya repeated her question.
So, what happened?
Sasha's eyes flipped from sapphire blue to blood red.
Maid?
A blonde maid gently opened a side door and robotically entered the room, landing obediently at Sasha's side. From the meek woman's demeanor, it was clear to Kaguya that Sasha had been abusing her status as master. The blonde maid's hair was tied in a low bun. She had blue eyes and a stern face. She wore long black gloves, so as not to directly touch her master. Kaguya resented Sasha's treatment of this fellow maid. But more importantly, she needed to hear what happened to her mentor, Julia. Sasha took a deep breath.
You really want to know what happened to Julia?
Kaguya nodded.
Tell me.
Sasha relented.
Fine. It all started after the ritual.
Kaguya faced Sasha, waiting to hear the story of how her mentor, Julia, died. Sasha sighed and stared off into the distance.
It was January 31st, the day of the ritual that turned Victor into a vampire.
Kaguya hung on every word as she recounted the entire tale.
I was yelling at the top of my lungs as I jumped from building to building. I don't believe this. It's all Violet's fault, that stupid stalker! My breathing was ragged, and my mouth was oozing blood from Victor's body. His blood tasted so good. It was the best blood I'd ever tasted, and now it was mine. But was it just mine? I shook off the thought and stopped on top of a building, looking up at the cloudy sky. I can't believe I'm married to a stranger. I mean, Victor was not a complete unknown. Violet had always talked about him to Ruby and I since we were kids. We always had to listen to her swooning over thoughts of her darling. Honestly, when I was younger, I found it very irritating. But as time went on, I got used to Violet's obsession with him. I was distraught. I had accepted the request to help with the ritual, but I never thought something like this would happen. I'm married to a man I don't even know! I was furious, and then I realized something even more alarming. If I didn't drink more of my husband's blood, and soon, I'd dry up. I'd turn into a mummy, and my body would go into hibernation. Fuck! I yelled in frustration. How was I supposed to make this work? Just walk up to Victor, tell him he doesn't know me, but I'm his wife and I need his blood? I shuddered at the thought and realized I needed to get home. So I left off the building and flew to one of the mansions I own. Arriving at the mansion, I opened the door and the first thing I saw made me freeze in disbelief. It was Julia's headless body sprawled on the couch. The room had been ransacked. No. Julia? I trembled in shock. I couldn't form a coherent thought at the terrifying sight of the woman who practically raised me lying dead. I saw the bodies of all my servants strewn about, vampires and humans alike. A massacre had taken place while I was gone. I didn't have time to mourn because I felt someone approaching at high speed. I covered my body with a lightning shield and dodged the attack. I heard a man's voice.
How good of you to join us.
The man was tall and bald, wearing a black priest's robe, but looking at it further, the robe seemed to have been modified to look like a suit. I growled in anger. Seeing the decapitated body of Julia was too much. A burning fury I couldn't control spewed out of my body. You fuckers! Lightning started to cover my entire body. The man ignored me and menacingly snapped the elastic cuffs of his black gloves. He bowed his head.
God bless this servant's fist so he can punish sinners.
His fist began to glow with a faint golden hue. When I tried to move my legs, I felt suddenly constricted. I was stuck. Just then, a woman in a nun's habit appeared. Her robe was also tailored to resemble a tight-fitting suit. She nodded at the man. Good job, Carlos. I could see in her hands she held the end of several long ropes. I scanned the mansion to see that they were stretched to the top of the ceiling. And then I saw that they were also somehow tied to my wrists. Before I could react, she pulled the ropes taut and suspended me in midair, stretching my arms painfully wide. I hung there like I was crucified in my own home. Carlos grinned.
Nice job, Maria. I'm glad I don't have to battle this vampire one-on-one. My fighting style is quite incompatible with her lightning abilities. Maria nodded.
Indeed, you're lucky to have me as your partner.
Carlos winked at Maria. You must be my good luck charm.
I could see that these two murderers were lovers. My anger reached a boiling point. These miserable hunters had treated me like I was easy prey to hunt. They invaded my house. They killed my servants. They killed my Julia. My teeth started to sharpen, and a bloody pressure started to emulate from my body. I was determined to kill them. Carlos grumbled, as if he was bored.
I knew it wouldn't be that easy. Maria laughed, unafraid.
Indeed, she wouldn't be the heiress of a clan if she was weak. The ropes that were holding me started to tighten, and I felt my skin burn. I looked at the ropes and realized they had a slight golden glow. Soon the holy energy would burn through my skin. I was getting angrier by the second, and I needed revenge. I focused my gaze on Maria. I flashed a smile, almost on the verge of insanity, and decided to use a technique my mother taught me. I covered my body with golden lightning and channeled it inward, creating a sonic boom around me. I felt the ropes around my wrist snap, and I fell to the floor, landing on my feet, buzzing with electric charge. I charged my attackers with incredible speed. I was tempted to finish Carlos first, but he was shielding himself with the halo of golden energy, so I pivoted to Maria. I knew killing Carlos wouldn't satisfy me anyway. He needed to suffer. He needed to see Maria beg for her life. I reared back, extended my fangs, and sucked my teeth into Maria's neck. She shrieked in horror when she realized what I was doing. I heard her desperate cry, and it made me bite her neck even harder. Carlos ran toward us.
Maria!
But before he could get close, I lifted her body and took off running as fast as I could. I could hear his desperate cries behind me.
Cursed be the vampires!
I don't know why, but I started to laugh with tears in my eyes and Maria in my arms. Fuck you for crossing me! I escaped the mansion and kept running. After a few miles, I slowed down and threw Maria to the ground. I tore the crucifix from her neck and bit my finger. A drop of blood fell to the ground, forming a magic circle around us. I taunted Maria. I didn't prepare the proper materials for you to become a full-fledged servant of mine. But who cares? With this, you'll become what you hate the most, a vampire. And worse than a normal vampire, you'll be a defective vampire. Teardrops streamed from my eyes as I thought of my fallen servants. As I thought of Julia. The last thing Maria saw as a human was my sadistic, cruel smile as I exacted my revenge.
Sasha's eyes returned from her distant stare and landed on Kaguya's stunned face. She had listened to the whole story in silence. Kaguya paused for a moment and then exploded with murderous intent at the thought of Julia's mutilated body. She looked over at Sasha's maid and had a horrible realization.
Wait a minute. What is your name?
The maid bowed her head.
Maria?
Kaguya trembled in anger. Maria's instinct screamed for her to react, but Sasha ordered her to stand by and stay close, and she could not disobey the order. Kaguya considered exploding with an attack, but calmed herself. There were bigger fish to fry. She turned back to Sasha.
What do these hunters want from us? Why are they so active right now?
Sasha swallowed.
According to my maid, a vampire named Lucy stole something very valuable from the church. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any information on what that something is.
Maria didn't know. Kaguya leered at Maria.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure you can trust her?
Sasha grilled Maria to demonstrate her control.
Tell me, what were you planning to do with your lover, Carlos?
Maria's eyes glowed red, a glazing look passing over her face.
We were planning to get married and have children together.
Sasha continued.
When you killed my former maid, what did you feel? And why did you set that trap for me?
Maria was still glassy-eyed.
Nothing. I felt nothing. After all, this is just a job. Carlos killed all the servants. I ripped your maid's head off and set a trap with the ropes. Our goal was to capture the heiress of Clan Fulgur.
Kaguya had seen enough.
Okay, I get your point. She is completely under your control.
Sasha cackled.
Oh, Kaguya, it was just getting good.
She whipped her head back to Maria.
Continue. Why did you want to capture me?
Maria responded without hesitation.
The Inquisition received information that the leader of Clan Fulgur lost his position as a vampire count and became an ordinary noble vampire. The Inquisition decided it would be a good opportunity to further weaken this clan by capturing their heiress, who was located in the States.
Seeing Kaguya's shocked reaction, Sasha sighed.
See, my father is losing the Earl title. I don't know why. He probably did something stupid. He may have been the title while playing some high-stakes card game.
Kaguya shook her head, reeling. Sasha continued.
And because of that, these idiots here thought it would be a good idea to capture me and use me as a bargaining chip to further diminish the strength of my clan. And the funny part, if these hunters had been successful, my parents wouldn't care. They would say I was weak and that I should die. The irony is that the only people who cared about me died at the hands of these monsters.
Kaguya saw Sasha once again getting emotional.
Lady Sasha.
Sasha let out a quivering breath.
I don't want your pity.
Kaguya narrowed her eyes.
You don't have it.
Before Sasha could react, Kaguya traveled through the shadows and slashed her throat.
I'm sorry, Lady Sasha.
Sasha's eyes widened in shock and betrayal.
How could you?
Blood geysered from her neck as she staggered to the ground. Kaguya set her sights on Maria. She charged her ribs with a flurry of dagger thrusts. She moved so fast, Maria didn't even have a chance to scream. Kaguya threw one final jab into Maria's neck as the glow of life left her eyes. She came crashing down to the floor beside her master. Kaguya sighed as she wiped her face with a handkerchief.
God damn, it's hard to be a good maid.
She stared at the lifeless, bloody bodies by her feet. A million thoughts raced through her mind.
What's my next move?
Kaguya muttered to herself, holding towels at Violet's mansion.
It's not easy being the perfect maid.
She looked at the body bags on the ground beside her. She scratched the back of her neck as she grew anxious thinking about their contents. Lady Sasha and Maria.
I could store Lady Sasha in my shadow, but that would be pretty rude to her after all. My shadow is hardly a nice place to visit.
She sighed, trying to think of what to do.
The maid's duty is to do what's best for her master.
This was a teaching that Julia tried to put in her head at a young age. Julia was a role model for all maids. She had trained several generations, beloved by all. She was Sasha's personal maid, but she was also the head maid of the Fulgur clan. Kaguya was sad to think of a world without her presence.
Those piece of shit hunters.
She thought about Sasha.
Losing a mother figure and finding out your family lost their Earl status must have been quite a shock for her.
Kaguya felt a pang of pity, an emotion she often avoided. The feeling carried through her thoughts.
Attacking her felt wrong, but I had to do it. She was in a bad mental state. If I had left her alone, she would have made a rash decision and ended up dead.
Kaguya knew that to prevent the worst fate from happening, the three women needed to stay together. It was the only way.
Lord Victor needs his wife's blood, and his wives need his.
Kaguya rubbed her forehead.
Maybe I should look for another job? This is stressful.
But she knew there was nothing else she was allowed to do, or equipped to do.
I suppose this is my lot in life.
She found herself wondering if Lord Victor would praise her for doing a good job. She frantically shook her head to get this thought out of her mind. She turned to see Violet and Victor entering the mansion, dragging the bodies of two vampire hunters, Thomas and Jimmy. They dropped them on the ground. The men were badly bruised and unconscious. Kaguya stealthily slid the body bags containing Sasha and Maria underneath the couch and turned to face Victor and Violet.
Welcome back. How'd it go?
Victor and Violet had no response. Kaguya could tell they were exhausted. Victor kissed Violet on the cheek. Ooh, I should get back to my parents' house. Make sure you keep an eye on these guys. Violet kissed him back.
I will.
Victor turned to leave. Violet stopped him.
Where will you tell them I am?
Victor shrugged. I'll figure it out. Victor arrived home, and the first thing his mother said was, "Where's Violet?" "Good to see you too, Mom." His father was washing dishes and turned off the sink, still awaiting the answer. Victor cleared his throat. "She's got a big house, so takes a while for her to pack." Victor's mother beamed.
You really hit the jackpot. You got a rich, beautiful, and loving wife. I have nothing more to teach you. I'm proud.
Victor nodded. "Thanks, Mom."
I mean, if it were up to your father, you would work as a bricklayer, and you would whistle to women passing by on the street. You would be a caveman. I don't want my son to be like that.
Victor's dad growled.
"Woman, why did you agree to date me back then if I was a caveman?"
Well, you were tall, muscular, and knew how to treat a woman well. Very well.
His parents traded loving looks, and Victor smiled. These two are still like teenagers. They heard the front door and saw Kaguya barge in. She seemed frantic, but tried to hide it.
Hello, I've returned.
Victor's mother turned to greet her, a little confused.
Oh, Kaguya, right? Where were you? I haven't seen you all morning. I was solving problems that Lady Violet forgot to deal with. Oh, good job.
Kaguya flashed a small, satisfied smile and grabbed Victor by the arm.
I need to talk to you.
He was surprised. "Mom, Dad, I've got to deal with some stuff." His parents nodded with understanding. His mom called out,
Don't forget to pick up Zach from the vet.
Victor smacked his hand over his head. "Shit, my cat. I forgot. Sorry, little buddy. You'll have to wait." Victor followed Kaguya through a secret passageway that descended to the basement of the house. When they were out of sight, Victor's father leaned over to his wife.
"Do you think Victor is straying on his marriage?"
Anna shook her head.
I doubt it. I know my son. I raised him to be a loyal man. He won't run after another woman if he's married to someone as beautiful as Violet. There must be something else going on.
Leon nodded, satisfied with the reasoning.
"Do you ever think it's weird that they got married without having an official wedding? Or did they have one and not invite us?"
Anna sighed.
They wouldn't do that to us, would they?
Leon shrugged and continued washing the dishes. Victor and Kaguya arrived in the basement. Victor was shocked at what he saw.
What the?
Sleeping in an open coffin was Sasha. To Victor, it was just a stunning woman in a silken white dress. She had short blonde hair and very pale skin. And though Victor tried not to stare, her thick thighs caught his attention. Damn, she's a beauty. Despite his best to stifle the reaction, he felt a strong bloodlust for her. What the hell is happening? It was the same way he felt the first time he saw Violet. It was an inexplicable attraction. It was like he needed to suck her blood immediately.
Why am I feeling this way?
Kaguya? Who is this? What is she doing here? Kaguya didn't answer. Victor watched the resplendent woman's chest rise and fall. He studied the delicate shape of her face, her soft skin, and perfect cheekbones. He bit his fist and stepped away. Get it together, man. You already have a beautiful wife. What the hell are you thinking? Kaguya watched him.
You're reacting to her, huh?
Victor ignored her question.
Who is she?
Victor asked as he clenched his fist with an insatiable hunger. Kaguya didn't answer him. Victor raised his voice.
Kaguya, tell me now. Who is this woman?
Kaguya met his stare. He could tell she was nervous.
Are you sure you want to know?
Victor tensed. Yes, tell me. Kaguya took a deep breath.
Well, Victor, she's your wife.
Talk must be illegal.
Victor's jaw dropped. All he could hear was his own heartbeat as his face grew red. He turned to face Kaguya.
Come again?
She is your wife.
Right, okay, just making sure that's what you said. He leaned a hand against the wall and let out a heavy breath.
What I meant was, what do you mean she's my wife?
Kaguya tilted her head in confusion.
Like you're her husband and she's your...
Kaguya, what the hell is going on here?
She sighed.
Normally, as the servant of Lady Violet, I shouldn't be telling you this information, but...
She bit her lip, struggling to find the right words. Victor started to think of Kaguya's personality. A loyal maid, determined to be a perfect maid. A maid who does everything for her master's sake.
Oh, I get it. She's worried about betraying Violet.
Victor approached Kaguya and patted her on the head. Don't worry, just tell me what happened. If Violet says something, you have my support. He felt her body tremble as a smile stretched across her face. Victor started to pull his hand away, but suddenly, at remarkable speed, Kaguya took his hand and placed it back on her head. She stared into his eyes.
What is she doing?
And then he understood. She wants me to stroke her hair. Her smile grew as Victor complied. He calmed himself. Okay, now explain everything. Kaguya nodded.
This woman's name is Sasha. Sasha Folger. Just like Lady Violet, she is your wife.
Kaguya took a deep breath and then explained all events that led up to Sasha arriving in the basement. Victor listened intently as he stroked Kaguya's hair. His emotions fluctuated wildly along with Sasha's journey. Even though he had never met her, their emotions were strangely in sync. He felt a deep connection to her. As Kaguya shared the part of Sasha's saga involving Maria murdering Julia, Victor felt himself overcome with vengeful anger. And where's this piece of shit now? Kaguya pointed to an open coffin in the corner of the room that Victor hadn't previously noticed. He looked at the blonde maid and sighed, boiling with anger. He calmed himself. Sasha had already sought her revenge. Victor tried to walk himself through all the new information he had received. Okay, so let's see. According to Kaguya, Sasha is Violet's childhood friend. Violet asked her and another one of her close friends to help out with the ritual that turned me into a vampire. But then things went haywire and they both became a part of it. So now they're also my wives? And if they don't drink my blood soon, we both might die. This is a nightmare. Victor turned to face Kaguya, still reeling. Who is my other wife? Kaguya bit her lip and sighed.
Ruby Scarlet.
Victor stroked his chin. Ruby.
Wait, I know Ruby. She's the most popular girl at the med school at my university.
He remembered her red hair, green eyes, and of course, her large breasts. She was very popular with the college men. She was called the untouchable red flower. For some reason, an irritating feeling grew in Victor when he realized that several men were after her.
Those fuckers. They better stay away.
Suddenly, Kaguya's voice broke Victor out of his rageful trance.
Lord Victor, are you all right?
Victor unclenched his fist.
Yes, thank you, Kaguya.
He stroked her hair. You've done a good job. Her whole body trembled as she heard those words. Suddenly, Victor heard a shuffling and saw Sasha stirring in her coffin. She was very groggy and disoriented, but the slash wound across her neck had long healed.
What happened to me? Where am I?
She was about to say more, but when she noticed Victor's presence, she froze and focused all of her attention on him. Sasha's sapphire blue eyes changed to blood red as she let out a breathless moan. He felt her energy. His throat went dry. His body begged him to lunge at her and feast on her blood. He heard Kaguya's voice.
Lord Victor, you're hurting me.
Victor realized that his gentle stroking of Kaguya's hair had become painful clawing as his lust for Sasha intensified.
Sorry, Kaguya.
He removed his hand and faced his waking wife.
Sasha, right?
She nodded, her lips trembling. Victor noticed that her whole face was glowing red. Seeing that expression of hers, something seemed to pierce his heart. Without any control, he could feel a word escape his mouth.
Beautiful.
Victor saw a yellow current of electricity flash in her eyes. She shrieked and jumped to her feet, backing away.
Stop! Don't look at me!
Kaguya approached her gently.
Lady Sasha, please take a moment to calm yourself.
Kaguya, why did you bring me here? I'm not prepared mentally, physically, or emotionally to talk to him right now.
Her face twisted into a scowl.
You brought me here to humiliate me.
Kaguya held firm.
Wrong. I brought Lady Sasha here to strengthen herself.
Kaguya pointed at Victor. Sasha tilted her head in confusion. Kaguya explained.
Every time Lady Violet drinks Victor's blood, she is slowly getting stronger. Do you understand?
Sasha's lip quivered.
How is this possible? Vampires only get stronger the older they are, or if they train their skills to be the fullest, like Lady Skatach. Lady Violet is 21 years old, practically a newborn.
Kaguya bowed in a gesture of respect.
Enjoy some time with your husband, Lady Sasha. Gain some strength.
She shut Maria's coffin to give them some privacy and left the basement, shutting the door firmly behind her. The newlyweds stood in awkward silence. Victor closed in, unable to control himself. He sniffed Sasha's neck and wrapped his fingers around her waist. She turned to him, face him. Their eyes meant they couldn't control themselves any longer. Victor saw Sasha's glistening fangs extend from her mouth. She pushed him against the wall in a fit of passion. She wrapped her legs around his waist as his hands crawled across her body. They toppled to the floor. They dug their fangs into each other's supple skin and devoured each other. They were overcome with the transcendent explosion of pleasure as they feasted on each other's delicious blood. Victor could suddenly feel and understand Sasha's whole existence. Her feelings, her thoughts, her pleasure. His world turned red. He could see Sasha's memories. He saw Violet and Sasha talking at the edge of a forest.
Yes, I will make him my darling.
He heard another voice and followed their eyes to a third woman in the conversation. It was Ruby. Sasha put a hand on her shoulder.
What do you think about this?
Ruby sighed.
No matter what I think, Violet won't change her mind. We should support her. Besides, I already brought the materials for the ritual.
Ruby pointed to a black bag on the ground. The vision was replaced by a different memory. Victor now saw himself in the abandoned building where his ritual took place. Everything happened the same as before, but now he saw what happened after he bit Violet. He saw himself pull back from Violet's neck, still lost in a trance of bloodlust. He saw Ruby and Sasha standing on the outside of the magic circle, watching the proceedings. He raced towards them. They ran, but he was faster. He caught Ruby first. He sunk his teeth into her neck before she even had a chance to scream. Ruby moaned as she wrapped her arms around him. A smile full of sharp teeth stretched across her face. She licked her lips and dug her fangs into his neck. Violet rushed towards them, screaming.
No!
But she was too late. Violet looked at Sasha, still standing there.
Run away from here now, Sasha! Go!
Sasha watched, frozen in shock. Violet dove in between Victor and Ruby, trying desperately to separate them. but she wasn't strong enough. She whipped back to Sasha.
Run! Now! Go, Sasha! Go!
Lightning started to appear around Sasha's body. She snapped out of her shock and turned to flee. Victor released his grip from Ruby and raced after her. Violet screamed in horror as Victor overtook Sasha from behind, biting her neck like a rabid dog. Sasha moaned as her eyes began to glow red, possessed by an overwhelming bloodlust. She bit him back. They guzzled each other's blood, their bodies entwined as one. Violet went ballistic.
No! You bitches! What have you done?